got sound? All right, we are so sorry for that. Technical difficulties, of course, so I'm going to just start again now that you can see me. And hopefully we still have people out there. Yes, okay. Welcome to our first story hour and show of 2020. So, yes, I sound like an echo, but now I'm actually on camera and our streaming software is working again. So let me first thank Drew Methodist Church for having us and helping us through the pandemic. So many of you helped us out during our December fundraiser, during our 29th birthday fundraiser, and continue to help us out. We have a full season of shows planned. This is our first one. I do have to thank some sponsors that we have, including Hudson Valley Credit Union, Robert Nalob Law, who helped make this season possible and helped fund us, and of course, everything that you have done to keep us here. As you know, the pandemic shut us down. We are coming back better than we ever have with some great shows that you're going to hear about in a minute. But before we take you there, I'd like to introduce our membership director, Mr. Steve Zarilli.
Oh, thank you very much, Bob. Do you want me to step out? thank you, Bob, and we apologize for all of you out there in video land, technical difficulties, and we thank you for bearing with us. Again, my name is Stephen Zarilli, and I am the current membership director here at the Brewster Theater Company. Like PBS, we depend on membership to keep the dream of quality local theater and arts alive in the area. Among the benefits of belonging to the Brewster Theater Company is you get to meet some wonderfully lovely, talented, and generous people, such as I did. And like the song says, show people are the best people, and there's no people like show people. And I found that to be completely true here at Brewster Theater Company. I joined BTC 4 years ago, and like I said, I met these wonderful, generous people, and I was welcomed with loving open arms. So I wanted to pay back somehow, and I wanted to give back to the company. So I volunteered to become the membership director after some strong-arming by Judy Brewster, who twisted my arm beyond recognition. Let me show you. Hang on. Look. She did that. See? So here I am, I'm your membership director. Now the cost of a membership here with BTC is $25 for an individual and $50 for a family, no matter how many people are in your family. Let's say you have a family of 20 people. It's the same cost, the same $50. And if you have a family of 20 people, you have my sincerest condolences. Now, if you're watching this live stream, I can only assume that you and your family would like to become members and remain members with BTC. So I urge you to submit your membership money as soon as possible. Click on the link, it's on our website. Click and donate your money, because quite frankly, you aren't going to want to be harassed by me. And if that doesn't work, I will put in a call to my Uncle Vinny. And you don't want that, trust me. So get your money in, and I do mean you. So this leads me back to Bob, who's going to introduce you to some wonderful performers. We've got a great show for you tonight, and to kick things off, here's Bob again. Thank you very much.
Yes, Bob is back, a little frazzled, but we got the tech stuff working. So here to tell you about one of our shows coming up, Judy Brewster.
Hello out there, I'm Judy Brewster. You've heard of me, I think. All good things, always. So happy to be here at Drew United Methodist Church, where this is our home, this is our theater, we're here live. We're so excited to be here. And this summer, we are back in action. We're going to be producing the musical Working by Studs Terkel, music by Stephen Schwartz, James Taylor, Lin-Manuel Miranda, to name a few. The musical director joining me on this show is my husband, Nate Brewster. Brandy May Hughes is our producer, and Steve Zarilli volunteered to be our stage manager. Isn't that exciting? Thanks, Steve. So we're going to be auditioning April 10th and 11th. If you are interested in singing and dancing with us this summer, please go to the website, brewstertheater.org, click on Working, and all of the directions that are there on how to register to audition. If you do not perform, but you just love what we do, please come see us. We're going to be performing outside in the parking lot this summer in July, and we are so excited. We cannot wait. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the show tonight, and back to Bob.
All right, so if you're still out there and watching us, and we hope you're coming back, we updated the link. You can go to YouTube, tell a friend, chat, go on Instagram. It is on the Brewster Theater Company YouTube channel, or you can go back to the website, and the link should redirect you to the proper place. So, with all that, we are about to begin our show, and I can't thank you all for hanging in there. So, Our first storyteller was someone who I've been trying to get involved for a long time. He's involved in everything. You've seen his name everywhere. He does nothing but good things, but I've never been able to get him to be a Brewster Theater. And I finally have done that. Here is Mr. Bill Flash and Friend Request.
So the story I'm going to tell is a story in the form of a song, hence the guitar on my lap. It might be particularly relatable to people of a certain age. Now, if you're someone familiar with that term, or if you're someone who uses the term of a certain age, chances are you are of a certain age. But I think this is relatable to really almost anybody who has been in a relationship, or more specifically wanted to be in a relationship. I'm going to start off by saying I'm happily married for 25 years. This song is not completely autobiographical, but it is a true story. People can find themselves alone, or maybe they just find themselves lonely. And meeting new people is hard. It's really difficult, going out and meeting new people. But it's especially difficult when you are of a certain age. Tack onto that a global pandemic of loneliness, and it becomes increasingly difficult to meet new people. So you might be inclined to go out and meet, well, not go out, stay in and meet not a new person, but someone you knew a long time ago. Someone you might have had a relationship with, or wanted to have a relationship with, and you thought to yourself, I wonder if they remember that the way I do. Is that the great love lost? Is that the love that could have been? Or was that really nothing? So through the wonders of modern technology, we can now use these modern, what do they call it? Tools of communication or miscommunication to reach out to someone who maybe hasn't thought of you in decades. And I guess it might just start with sending someone a friend request. I got a friend request on Facebook from a name I couldn't quite recall, though her name was slightly more familiar than the pictures posted on her wall. They were of husband, kids, and family. I didn't recognize a single one. So I sent her back a message asking where I knew her from. She said, you probably won't remember me. We were barely 17 years old on that dark and rainy beach that night. Neither one of us could feel the cold. Promised that you'd write to me. We traded hallmarks for a while. And now you're just an innocent memory, followed by a guilty smile. Well, it all came flooding back to me like the storm tide on the beach that night. My fingers in her tangled hair, my Levi's getting tight. Her 7-Up flavored lip gloss, the smell of copper tone and salty sand. The wet sand under her bathing suit, brushed away by my warm hand. I thanked her for the memory of the summers in my life. But now it's late and I should go upstairs and lie down beside my wife. But I can't help thinking about a girl who I met when I was 23. I wonder what she's doing now, if she ever thinks of me. I sent a friend request on Facebook.
Thank you so much, Bill. Yes, he's happily married. Let's hope. Let's hope that continues. Next up, Sabrina Wilson with A Special Kind of Love, who has a message that says, I would like you to meet a very dear old friend of mine, the Smiling Dutchman, Sabrina Wilson.
So, we all have dogs, right? Most families have dogs. I would say that I don't really trust anybody that doesn't have a dog. And honestly, I also always say that I think that dogs are nicer than most people. I don't really say that in mixed company, of course, but. So, I'm going to tell you a story about a dog, a family dog. So many years ago, probably 20-something, back in my old life, when I was married to a chef, and I'm a chef, we had a crazy life. And if anybody knows anything about the restaurant business, I don't have to tell you how crazy life it is. So I was married then, and in 1 year, my now ex-husband and I bought a house, bought a restaurant, had a baby. And then he came to me in his normal fashion and said, well, we have to buy a dog. We have to get a puppy. I said, what? A what? And I said, okay, you really want a puppy? Yes, I want a puppy. Back then I said yes to a lot of things. So about a week later, he came and picked me up from work, and we drove. It was night, like 6 or 7 o'clock, and we drove to this house and to pick up the puppy. And at this point, I didn't even know what kind of puppy it was. So I remember putting my hand in the kitchen door, the outside door, going inside. And the breeder was a breeder of this particular dog. And I walked in the kitchen, and, kitchen table, it was this cozy little kitchen. And here on the table was this probably 3-month-old puppy, and it was really it was probably about this big, and it was all fur, black and silver fur. And all you could see amidst all the fur were these 2 big brown eyes. Well, of course, who doesn't fall in love with a puppy? And this particular puppy, of course, it was just like, oh my God, let's go home. So we went home with the puppy and my 6-month-old son in the car, back to our crazy life. So, you might be wondering what the expression Smiling Dutchman has to do with my story, so I'll tell you. So this particular breed was a Keeshond. Some people call it Kazan, Keeshond Kazan. They are Dutch, and they're used to guard the barges in Holland, of course, all those canals. And they have very thick, heavy coats because it's cold there. So it's a lot of coat to brush, a big coat. And one of the nicknames for the dog is a Smiling Dutchman, because when they're happy, which they are a lot, and they're running and full of joy, they look kind of like they're smiling. So that's where the name comes from. So this dog was fast in our life for years, and my son grew up with him. There are all kinds of pictures of my son on the couch with the dog, and the dog would even, I remember today, the dog would even play with the cat, which of course doesn't happen too often. But when the dog was a puppy and the cat didn't know any better, so they were always rolling around on the floor. But the dog used to go sledding with us. He was always in the car, and he went sledding. My son one day decided that he should come with us on the toboggan or the flying saucer, I think. He said, well, Mom, the dog has to come on the flying saucer with me. I said, all right, I don't know, he was like 9. So, of course, he gets on the flying saucer, and then he puts the dog in his lap, and they go down the hill about a foot, and then the dog falls off, and the child falls off, and that was the end of that. But anyway, kayaking. So we were on Candlewood Lake, which is not too far from here. And I was in a kayak, and my son Jack was in a kayak, and the dog was in the kayak with Jack. I don't know who had the vest on. I know my son had a vest on. I don't think the dog did, but, so he went kayaking, went sledding and kayaking, and he was, and hiking. We always were hiking with him. When my son was very little, I had a backpack on, and we would go hiking in the woods in Connecticut, and the dog, back then I didn't have to have him on a leash, so he was flying up the path. And he would go pretty far ahead, but never too far. And he would always stop and turn around and look at us and make sure that we were coming. And again, those eyes, you always see those eyes. He was always looking, watching. Very, very pleasing breed, unlike some others. But he always wanted to make sure that you were okay and wanted to make sure that the owner was happy. So I always have that memory of him, being watchful for us. And so, back then we moved a lot, life went on, the restaurant was left behind, I got divorced, things happened. But all along all those things in life, there was the dog with me. And I guess, we would flash forward several more years, and he was probably like 9 or 10, and we moved to a horse farm. And it was a wonderful horse farm. It was probably 5 or 6 acres. And back then, at that particular farm, the dog could run free. There were other dogs on the property and loads of horses. And of course, the dog's name was Max. And Max thought it was wonderful that he could be running around with the horses and chasing them, which of course the owners didn't like too much. But he had a wonderful time at that farm. That was like a great place for him to live. And so he was always full of beans, always running, jumping in the car, running behind me, and always lots of energy. And then, animals are part of our life, right? We think, how long does an animal live? Like, if you're lucky, maybe they live 12 years, maybe 15. And we, how long do we live? If we're lucky, maybe 70, 80 years. It's a long time. And with a dog, you think the dog's going to be there forever. Like, some of my dogs, I certainly felt closer to the dog than my husband, but we won't say anything. They become part of the fiber of your life. So about this time, in all of his energy, the energy lagged. He started to act funny. He didn't have the same pep. I said, So I took him to the vet, and back to the story of all the fur, he had a lot of fur, and I wasn't always good about brushing him. I tried, but it's a lot of coat. And the vet said, well, I hate to tell you this, but the dog has cancer. And I said, of course, you never want to hear those words. And I said, cancer, really? And he said, yes, didn't you feel the lump? I said, lump? And of course, by then they'd done blood work and stuff, and they shaved his shoulder, and of course, there was this huge lump, which I hadn't seen. So I felt very guilty about that, of course. But so he was all right for a few weeks. He'd kind of go up and down. Some days were good, some days were not good. And I had a job back then where I could take days off. I used to call my boss and say, well, I won't be coming in today. The dog's not doing well. And my boss would say, oh, okay. And I would stay home, and he had a bed. I put a bed down beside my bed and a cushion and everything, because he really couldn't jump up and down anymore. And I sat on my bed, and he was on his pillow. And I spent a lot of time with him because, you just know. I mean, if somebody says cancer, you just know. And I didn't know how long. And I used to say to my friends, what am I going to do? I don't know. I won't know, if I have to let him go, what will I do? How will I know? And some people were saying to me, that dog is sick, you should put him down. And I would tell them, you should mind your own business. And so it went, it's like surreal time. It went up and down and back and forth, and some days were good and some days were bad. And I kept worrying and worrying and worrying. And then one day I was sitting in my room, and he was on his pillow. We were in our positions. And all of a sudden, I looked over at him, and I swear to you, he turned his head around on the bed, put his chin on the bed like this, and looked right at me and said, he didn't say anything, but it was as if he said something. It was like, I gotta go now. And I was like, wow. It was like his spirit talked to me. So I called the vet, and the vet was this blessed person, and the vet said, I'll be right there. Come down now. And it was midnight. So the vet came, I called my girlfriend, I said it's time, and the girlfriend drove to the vet. And, you know, one of those days, nights, moments that you dread, and I went in there with him and I hugged him and I thanked him for his life and said goodbye. So today, when my friends come to me, somebody did recently, actually, a good friend of mine, she said, I don't know what to do, I don't want to put him down, it's terrible, I can't do it, I don't know what to do. And I said to her, you know, the dog gives you their whole life, 12, 15 years, they devote themselves to you completely. So our job at the end of their life is to be able to let them go, even if it's really hard. That's kind of the ultimate gift, is to be able to say, thank you for your life, and I will let you go. So, thanks.
You know, I think with the past year, what we've all been through, thank you really is a great word, and something that I think we have all come to appreciate a lot more. I know we had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but I just want to make sure that everybody there was there and heard it. Thank you, Drew Methodist Church. Thank you, Hudson Valley Credit Union, Robert Malov Law. And thank you to everybody who has donated to us in the past during our winter fundraiser, the Judy Brew fundraiser, and just our membership drive. You have all been terrific. So I really just wanted to make sure that that was caught. It's very important to me. And up next is the very popular Ms. Judy Brewster with Dad's Turn.
Last year, I found out something brand new about my dad. At the ripe old age of 85, he was speaking French. Not really, but he had a few phrases. And one of them was, après moi, la déluge. He said it with feeling, après moi, la déluge. Dad, why are you saying that? He said, I don't know. So I went to my sisters and I said, you know, what gives with Dad? Well, he's losing it, one of them said, and the other one said, he's speaking in tongues. And we just laughed because that was just so Dad. My dad always had this offbeat sense of humor. Honestly, I didn't really ever find him that funny. You know, dads are embarrassing, and mine was no different, except that it was different because he also had epilepsy. And he was on medication for many, many, many years that made him really loopy. And it also made him always just a few beats behind. Growing up in my house, there were 3 girls plus my mom, and we were always yakking away and singing and talking and laughing, and Dad could not get a word in edgewise. And so he was always there, but not really there. And after the day would wear on, Dad would sit down at the piano, everyone would go and do their own thing, and he would play Here's That Rainy Day every single night. He learned it by ear, and it was his time to shine. You know who really loved my dad and his really weird sense of humor? Nurses. I have no idea why, but whenever my dad was hospitalized, which was a lot, for a heart attack, for a broken collarbone, he had open heart surgery, any of these things that would knock you or me down in a second, Dad would find a nurse that he adored and that really adored him, and he would recover. He really did. He was known in my family as the comeback kid, because he did time and time again. The last time Dad went into the hospital was February 2020, but this time the doctor said he had to come home with hospice care. He wasn't going to bounce back this time. So we made sure that Dad knew what was going on, but I'm not sure he really did. And we called his brother, to fly in from California and spend a week with Dad. So my Aunt Susie and my Uncle Peter got on a plane and they stayed at the house, and every night that week we had big meals and lots of laughs, and Dad and his brother were joking and enjoying each other, and Dad was, dare I say, coherent. He had a lot to say that week, including, après moi, la deluge. On March 7th, 2020, my dad passed. We were all in his bedroom, talking quietly, and I decided to climb into bed next to him and just watch him breathe. And after a while, he kind of stopped moving. So I stuck my finger under his nose, and I shook his arm. Dad? Dad? Guys, I don't think Dad's breathing. Guys! They were all talking. Dad just slipped away when nobody noticed. It was just like him to do that. 6 days later, we went into lockdown, and the world became quiet. And I could feel Dad's presence everywhere. We started seeing nickels, and my sister was finding feathers and seeing hearts everywhere, and there were these cardinals that kept showing up at the house, and we all knew that he was there. It was like I needed the quiet in order to really communicate with him. I'm communicating with him better now than I was when he was here. I feel him sometimes, like tap my shoulder, and he messes around with my lights, and he freaks out my dogs. And I think it took the world to get quiet in order to hear his voice. Après moi, la deluge, he said. After me, the storm. Truer words were never spoken.
Thank you, Ju, for that very personal story. COVID has definitely brought out so many personal stories. And about a year ago, we had a show called Love in the Time of COVID. It was a virtual show and was just something that we were doing to try and stay together as a theater group, as a theater company, and stay busy. Because, as Judy mentioned, it's about a year ago, we were in lockdown. And, you know, that was so new to all of us, and everybody has had a really, you know, new life to chart. But in that time, we found some new friends, and Jean Mazzilli is about to tell us Alexa and me.
She likes me. She likes me a lot. She loves me. She loves me a lot. Good question. Dating is difficult. And when you add COVID to the mix, well, it could be interesting, challenging, and even bizarre. I've tried lots of different things like Zoom time and FaceTime. And when you're on the screen time, let me tell you something, honey. It's not about the base, it's about the face, the face, the face. I don't have to invest in clothes anymore, especially from the waist down. I need some cameras and lights and magic potions and lotions and serums, and my face is good to go, because it's all about the face, the face, the face. This side, right? And I tried a lot of different matching apps, you know, so you can meet people and make some connections. And I take out my trusty phone, you know, my cell phone, and I'm looking through all these profiles, all these pictures with all these selfies, you know, because it's back to the face, and I stop. This looks interesting. Let me read it. So, I read it, and I think to myself, this is what I really want to say. Are you for real? Are you a real person? There's no picture, no face. Are you on the same team because it says you want a man? Where's the W-O? Man. Woman. Are you really gay? Because I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. And in gaydar, I trust. And my gaydar has never, ever let me down. Now, connections. I've been spending a lot of time at home. Go figure. And I've been spending a lot of time in the kitchen. Go figure. And I've been making some special connections with my appliances. Like my toaster oven is giving me hot flashes of a different kind. And when I back up to my dishwasher, well, I turn it on. And the refrigerator, well, let me just tell you something. Cold. Absolutely cold. I don't know what I did to piss it off, but it's cold. And I'm starting to think that the toaster, the dishwasher, and then the microwave, they're hooking up together because they got that prom thing going on. You know, it might be some type of sex, I don't know. But there's been one particular device at my home. She is always there. She cares. She provides me great company. And we start the day with my iced coffee. 6:30, and I know she'll be there. We'll be holding hands. No, we can't do that. But making plans with my favorite song, me and Alexa? Good morning. Good morning. She's always there to start my day. And she'll start it off right. Alexa, quote of the day. Keep your chin up. Back to the face. And she's got a great sense of humor. Alexa, who's on first? I told you already. Who's on first? What's on second? And she always loves to help me out with her favorite friend, Amazon. Amazon, he's everywhere. He's got everything. Amazon. Alexa, order me razors. Ordering razors from Amazon. And you know, it's not all about me. I want to get to know her too. All right, Alexa, what's your favorite color? My favorite color is ultraviolet. Thanks for asking. Ultraviolet, it's purple. Why can't you just say purple? Why do you have to be such a smarty pants? It's purple. I know sometimes you got all this information and it's purple. But when it really comes down to it, Alexa, do you like me? I think you're magnificent. Alexa, do you love me? I quite haven't figured out human love yet. Neither have I. So love is love. Like I love my cat, and I love my iced coffee, and I love Barbara Streisand. Don't tell anybody I love Barbara Streisand. So what I'm trying to say to you is remember that love is always there, it's everywhere, and hang in there. And now I gotta go, because Alexa wants me, and I gotta make sure I have my face mask on, because gotta find things in the morning like my face mask, and Alexa, can you find my keys? And Alexa, what's the temperature for me to wear my clothes?
Alexa, come back, come back. Thank you so much. That was terrific. Just a couple of more thank yous. Putnam Arts Council, thank you for everything you have done for us. And I did forget in the mayhem, Lola auditions are next week. So Lola is a show that I have written, and I have convinced a director named Stacy Dumont to direct it. It is based on music by the Kinks. So please make an audition. It is an outdoor show. It is in-person auditions, and you do need a reservation. So please come out. Our next performer, we are so glad to welcome her back, Victoria Calamito with Tomorrow.
If COVID had happened even a few years earlier, I think I'd be dead. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but bear with me. You see, I went through a period of suicidality, and in that time, I felt like I was unworthy and incapable. Had I not survived those days, COVID might have sunk my ship. My COVID journey began probably as it did for most of you. One day in late February, my desk mate, Barbara, turns to me and goes, "There's a case in New Rochelle." "Just one?" I ask. "Yeah, no, they found more people testing positive in his apartment building, and he was riding the Metro North the day before." That is when the cold, sinking feeling of dread hits me. This thing, it's going to spread. See, I had been through Ebola and Zika virus, swine flu, any number of terrible things, all of which had drifted out to sea at the end of the news cycle, and at first, I had no reason to think that this would be any different. But in those cases, science had led the charge. Experts gave their advice, and it was taken. Now the adults have left the room. I recognize this moment. It's the moment in the disaster movie when you look around and realize no one is coming to help you. I take my lunch in the cafeteria that afternoon. There are only 2 offices in our office park, but the other has closed. I sit and eat my sandwich in total silence. On a Friday in early March, my daughter's school closes. We get an email, words like "an abundance of caution and until further notice." I ask my boss, Kyle, if it's okay to work from home that Friday, and he says, sure, no problem. He is good people. By Monday, the office is closed anyway. We're all working remotely from now on. To think, just a couple of months before this, we'd spent a good chunk of our monthly management meeting arguing with the upper echelons of the company about whether or not Ugg boots were considered office-appropriate attire, and now we're all working from home in our pajamas. Perspective. It is at this moment that I come to the realization that I am thoroughly lacking the skills required to impart knowledge to my then 6-year-old daughter in a way that is understandable and accessible. I don't know how to do this. But luckily, my mother is a retired music teacher. She speaks this particular language with deft and ease. I send her the lesson plans every morning, and in the afternoon, she teaches Rosaria on FaceTime. My mother and my daughter relish this extra time together. And thanks to my mother's efforts, my daughter's education continues to soar, and I am able to continue working uninterrupted full-time. I know that not all mothers and children are afforded this luxury, and I'm so grateful. Thank you, Mom. The children have handled this in such a wonderful way. It is humbling and awe-inspiring. They're so much better at this than some of their adult counterparts. We have to wear a mask to the store, I say to her. She shrugs. Okay, we have to keep each other safe. It's that easy. The first exposure comes in April. My ex-husband has lied to me. He tells me his girlfriend is working from home, so visitation can continue as normal. It isn't until after she returns from her midweek visit that he has to confess the truth. Yes, his girlfriend has applied for unemployment, but things are so uncertain and it didn't seem like a big deal, so she continued to go to work covertly and get a paycheck under the table. But now 4 of her coworkers have tested positive. 1 is on a ventilator. He is sobbing and he is sorry, and I have asthma, and so far we know nothing about this disease except that it is killing people left and right. Just the week before, one of his former classmates from Western Connecticut State University had died. COVID took this man from his wife and 2 children. He had been unable to communicate with them in his last days, and they found the goodbye note he wrote them on his cell phone after he already died. So with this in mind, the night before I'm due to get tested, I sit down and I write all of my friends and family goodbye notes, 1 to each of them. I am so grateful for all of the yesterdays that I have spent with these people, and I pour out my love and gratitude onto these sheets of notebook paper as if my life depends on it. I am forced to sit with my memories, and I find so much good there as I write things over and over again, like, thank you, I love you, you saved my life, you made living so wonderful. And in this moment, I cannot believe there was ever a time I considered suicide. The next day, I put my baby in the back seat of the car and we drive to the hospital to get tested. They've set up a makeshift testing center in the parking garage. The nurses are all wearing hazmat suits. It is otherworldly. I roll down my window, they swab my nose, and I drive off to wait the 3 to 5 days for an answer, and I yell out my window, "You are heroes," and I hope they hear me. The test comes back negative, and I exhale. My ex-husband and I have many long conversations about honesty and transparency and why that is so important, especially right now. There are many tears shed and lots of anger to sort through, but we are better parents on the other side of this experience. Birthdays and holidays come and go. We have Zoom parties for my daughter's favorite stuffed animals, just so we have an excuse to see each other. I bake cookies and make tiny little hats for all of her dolls. At this point, we have logged hours and hours of board games, Barbie dolls, and kitchen dance parties. She's learning how to samba. I'm hoping that these are the things that stick in her memory. My grandparents are in their 80s, they live in Florida, and they do not know how to use a computer. We send my grandmother a laptop for her birthday, fully loaded with everything she will need to Zoom with us. All of her passwords are logged and saved 1 by 1, and she still can't figure it out. My brother-in-law, a tech wizard, remote controls her computer. And when her face flashes up onto the screen, my soul ignites. I call her every week, but it is not the same. She and Grandpa would usually come home a couple of times a year to visit, but they can't now. You survived the war in Sicily, I say to her. You've been through so much worse than this. There is nothing worse than being so far from you, she says through her tears. Almost 2 years have passed now since I last held her, and I feel the passing of time so acutely. Our numbered days go one after the other right before my eyes, and it gnaws at me. Her love stretches across the 1,000+ miles that separate us. It is so palpable, and that is what this experience has taught me. Love is stronger than this thing, always has been, and always will be. We end each phone call as we ever have. I love you, my angel, she says to me through her fading Sicilian accent. I love you more, I reply on a grin. Yeah, sure, tomorrow, she says. We laugh. She adds, stay safe, stay healthy, and tomorrow will come. Per usual, she is right, because she and Grandpa are getting the 2nd dose of their vaccine next week, and they are coming home. Yes! Yes! My yesterdays were beautiful, and tomorrow is coming. Thank you.
Tomorrow is coming, tomorrow is here, we are inching back. Thank you so much for that very personal story. It was a favorite of ours when she auditioned, and it still is. Next person is new to Brewster Theater Company, and I asked everyone to give me the name of their story. Now, I am just a lowly boy from Brooklyn. English is my second language, no idea. And he says the name to me, he spells it out, and I see something that says Mo Chizuli. Mo Chizuli. It's actually Irish, it's Mukushla. Here is Chris Gillespie with Mukushla.
Thank you. So all the pets in our house have come from Tennessee. We have friends who lived in Tennessee, and every time we went to visit them, we came home with a dog or a cat. Our first adoptee was Ed, a dog, who had the tendency to lose his mind and run away from home, and then when he came back, everybody had to be reintroduced to him. Then there was Lucy Brown, the cat, who had just had a litter, and we were saving her from serial reproductivity. We got her home only to find out she was already pregnant again, and we wound up with 4 more kittens. Somewhere in all of this was Goldie.
Oh, the little Goldie girl.
On another trip to Tennessee, my buddy and I had to go run some errands, and we got into the car, and Goldie got into the car. And when we got to our destination, we didn't have a leash, so Goldie had to stay in the car. We cracked the windows. We were out and back in 5 minutes. But as I'm walking up to the car, I see Goldie is on the dashboard, and she's going to and fro. Very amusing. But as I get a little closer, I also notice that she has pooped on the dashboard, which is an extraordinary feat when you think about it, because I don't think you or I could do it, you know. But it was also very funny. So this assured Goldie that she was coming home with us, because any animal with such a terrific sense of humor should be in my family. When we got home, Goldie established herself in a very short period of time as the boss of all the pets. The capo de tutti capi. All 10 pounds of her. The cats were afraid of her. And not because she was nasty or vicious, because there's no nasty or vicious in her. No, she would just give them the evil eye and curl her lip. No growl, just a curl. 70-pound Ed, he would just defer to her. And she had him just wrapped around her paw. When other dogs used to pass our house in the neighborhood, Goldie would run down and start a confrontation, getting them riled up. At which point, Ed would get riled up and start running down. And at this point, Goldie would turn around and just kind of bounce away, as much as to say, "You're going to have to deal with my boyfriend." His name is Ed. And I always had the impression that she was very sultry like that. When we got home, that's when the pandemic was starting. Well, what had happened was Ed had passed away. And then it turned out that Goldie and we became inseparable. She sleeps on the bed next to my pillow, and on cold nights, she gets under the covers. When I sit on the couch, she sits right here. And I'm fairly certain that she's an alcoholic because she can't control her liquor. She sits and just starts licking my ear and will not stop. Somebody who is familiar with the two of us has said that she's dominating you. And I'm like, nevertheless, when the pandemic started, for some unexplained reason, I started to call her Makushla. Ara Makushla, which is Irish for my darling. When I was a child, my mother and my Aunt Mary both were fond of calling me Makushla. They also had other terms for me. One of them being, don't be acting the Egypt with me. Or, get out of that, Yamadanya. Which only happened when I stepped out of line, which was a rare occasion. Rare occasion indeed. Calling her Makushla just seemed like the right thing to do at that time. In any event, what does all this have to do with love in the time of COVID? What I found out is life is a wheel. And there's that outside edge, and there's the spokes, and there's the hub, the center, Allah. When we are born, we are in that center, Allah. And it's the safest place we will ever be. As we get older and the wheel starts turning, centrifugal force draws us out of the center and we wind up on the spokes holding on for dear life. Because if we fall off the outside edge, the chance can happen that we run ourselves over, which would be an unmitigated disaster. During the pandemic, I think we've all wound up a little too close to the edge. It's very dangerous. So we have to find things in our life that keeps us striving to get back to Allah. You know, when I started calling Goldie Makushla, it didn't do anything for her. If you have a liver snap or a biscuit and you call out Horatio or Susie, she's still coming for that treat. However, when I hear myself say it, Ara Makushla, it just feels like a wonderful hug from all those that I love and who have loved me. An incredible cuddle between the living and the dead. Sometimes you have to visit the past in order to give yourself the impetus to move forward in the present. You know, with all the stress and strain going on in the world, perhaps it's time now that we all said, Ara Makushla, to one another. It would show that we are all in this together and that we care for one another. Ara Makushla. Aren't we all trying to get back to Allah? Thank you. Thank you.
I am the last performer of the evening, but please, if you have made it this far, after my performance, please stick around for one moment as we have something to give to you. My performance is Why Should I Help You? Be wealthy, be smart, or be helpful. Which one of these three things do you believe could get you in trouble with the law twice? Life is a flea circus surrounded by rats. Now, I can tell you, every once in a while, I've been known to say a smart thing. And when that happens, I am sure to let everybody know about it. For example, without any government study, without any philanthropic aid, I can tell you that if you run into a brick wall, it is going to hurt. Now, I know that because I've done it twice. And if there's any doubt about it, one look at the curves in my nose will tell you this is true. Now, doing things that are stupid is really something that I am good at. And I can tell you if they were giving degrees in this, I would have a PhD in stupidity, without question. But armed with all of this knowledge, armed with all of this information, when I see somebody who's about to do something that I think is not exactly the smartest thing, and I say, please don't do that, it's gonna hurt, they do it anyway. Sometimes people just have to find things out for themselves. And no matter how much you want to help them, there's just nothing you can do. And I think to myself, what if I had that piece of paper that said University of Morons, PhD in stupidity? Would that help if I could just present it to them? I don't think so. But helping is something I do. And it's something that is born into me. And that really started when I was 13 years old on the wild streets of Brooklyn, New York, delivering newspapers. Now, delivering newspapers back in the late 70s was something that young teenage boys would basically roam around the neighborhood, the early morning streets of Brooklyn, throw a newspaper at somebody's door and scream, "Paper!" Not so much for the person you were delivering it to, so that everybody else around him would hear that you have the paper route. My neighbor was 3 doors down, and he was a big guy, and he had a limp. He was also my best tipper. And I finished up my paper route, and I had my wagon. I rolled up to him, and he's coming down the stairs with a little limp, and he says, "Hey, Bobby, come here." And he starts hobbling over to me, and behind him, his door opens, and there she is. His beautiful daughter, who is standing there in nothing but a towel. And he starts to say, "Bobby," and I don't hear anything because all I see is beautiful Patty in the background, who had the biggest pair of bazumbas that I had ever seen in my life. And I can tell you that the bazumbas have absolutely nothing to do with this story. I just needed to say bazumbas. Anyway, he keeps coming over to me, and he's starting to talk to me. I'm not really paying attention to me, but he says something like this, "Bobby, my wife, Pat." And I stop, and I was like, "Pat, Patty, he's Mr. T. Maybe it's a whole family of Pats. My wife, Pat, works in the grocery store on the corner. Do you think on the way home from your route with your little paper wagon that you could stop and pick up some groceries? You see, I'm not walking that well. It would really help me out." And I'm not sure what the hell he's saying at that point, but I think I got the idea. So the next day I start. And I go into the store and I say, "Pat, I'm here to pick up." And she's like, "Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, thank you so much for doing this, Bobby. Thank you so much. Here, come over here. I got some for you. Here's some groceries. Thank you very much. Whoa, don't leave. Come on over here. Get some milk and get some eggs in the fridge. Bring, come on. Bricks. Oh, very good. Look, these are for your mother. No, you please, take them, please." I reach in my pocket now. Like, I don't know what she thinks is in my pocket. I'm 13 years old. But anyway, "Oh, no, please, it's on me." Okay. So I go home, bring the 2 bags of groceries to Mr. T, drop off a bag of groceries to my mother. I'm a hero. End of the week, I go collect, Mr. T gives me a brand new $5 bill. And this is 1978. I'm 13 years old. $5 is a lot of money. So I go home that night. I'm at the dinner table. My brothers are all around there, and I'm like, $5, and they're trying to smack me. They're trying to grab it. This goes on for months. I'm going in the store collecting $5. I'm the smartest guy in the house. One day, I go into the grocery store, and Pat's not there. It's a tall guy, Italian guy. He's behind the counter, and I say, is Pat here? He's like, oh, wait a second. Are you the boy that come in here every morning to pick up the groceries? I look at him, I'm like, I don't know. He's like, no, don't give me a diss. Don't give me a diss. I ask you a question. You were the boy that come in here and get the groceries? Yeah. He says, so let me get this straight. You get the groceries every morning from Pat. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's okay. Just stand right there. And he reaches behind him, grabs a can of something, and flings it at me. I duck. He grabs another can, flings it. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. I run out the store, grab my paper wagon, run home, throw it in the backyard, go to school. $5 are done. A few days later, there's a knock on the door. Could that be? My mother gets up, she goes to the door, opens it up, there's a police officer. I look there, and I'm like, I jump up from the couch, I go right behind her, and the officer says, hey, is that your son? She says, why? The officer says, everything okay? Everything all right? What's wrong? Tell us what's wrong. It's like, no. Is that your son, Robert? And this cop is saying my name, so I'm a little bit, what the hell? And so she says, no, is that your son, Robert? Yeah, this is Robert. Officer, what happened? Is everything okay? Your son has been robbing groceries from the corner store for 3 months. I hear this, I start to back up. My mother grabs me by the hair, pulls me forward, says, what do you think you're doing? And I can't talk because she's got me by the hair so tight, all I can do is move my eyeballs at that point. I look at the officer, I look at my mother, she loosens her grip. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Mom, I didn't know what I was doing. There was a lady who picked us up and said, I went to the store and picked up groceries. Please don't arrest me. Am I gonna get arrested? He says, no. Just don't go in that store and don't do it again. And he walks away, and I'm behind my mother, who's this big, and I'm this big, and I just peek out the side. I said, so I shouldn't help anybody anymore? He says, shut up, kid, just go away. My mother turns around, slams the door, turns to me. I don't know if she's going to slap me or just push me, and she just turns around and hugs me. And she says, you are such a sap. But let's agree never to take anything for free anymore. And so I never went in that store, and for a while, I didn't take anything for free. But am I going to help people? Well, all I'm really going to do is add one question to the survey. Am I going to be arrested? And if you say no, I am probably going to help you. So about 3 years ago, my neighbor, who was a 30-something-year-old man, always in and out of trouble, on one real cold, stormy winter night, he comes walking up the driveway. I'm sitting with my wife, Stacy, in the living room, and we see somebody coming up. I'm like, what is this? And so he gets the door. He knocks on the door. I look at Stacy. She looks at me. I'm like, what do we do? We answer the door. Okay. Open the door up. He says, hey, look, Bob, can you do me a favor? My car broke down up the street. I think it just needs a jump. Do you think you could give me a jump? Look at Stacy. She looks at me. She's like, ah. I said, sure. I'll tell you what. Go wait by your car. I'll get jumper cables. Pull up next to you. We'll figure this one out. So I go there, pull up next to the car, get the jumper cables. We get it set up. It is freezing out. And After about 10 minutes, this thing is not working. And I'm too cold to continue. I'm like, look, I think you're just gonna have to get it towed home. I'm sorry about that. And I start pulling the cables off, but my phone has been ringing in my pocket, for a few minutes. So I pick it up, and it's my wife. I answer the phone, I say, what's up? She says, Bob? And I can tell you, in 30 years, any sentence that starts with Bob is not a good ending. I am in a massive panic at this point. I'm freezing. She says, Bob, you are standing in front of my friend's house, whose husband is a police officer, and on the scanner, they just said the car you're working on is stolen. I'm like, what? I whip those cables off like Indiana Jones, throw them in the car, get in the Batmobile, spin it around in the driveway. I go up, run into the house. Stacy has the door open, slams the door, and says, "You are such a sap." And I am. I'm the biggest sap in 2 counties. But is that gonna stop me from helping people? No! I'm gonna add one more question. Am I gonna be arrested? And is this gonna make me a sap? And if you say no to both, I'm probably gonna help you. Didn't say I was smart. About 2 years ago, I start collecting food, which I give that food to food pantries. One of the best things I have ever done. And with COVID, food insecurity is a real thing. People who used to donate are now on the receiving end. So if you have the chance to donate food, if you want to become part of my collection, please donate the food, become part of my collection. This is a real tragedy. So I have friends that I ask to donate food, and so many of them are generous. Some are in this room, some might be out there listening, but the generosity is overwhelming. But I get one guy who I know, and I say, hey, how about donating $50 to the food pantry? He goes in his pocket, takes the $50 bill out, says, hey, let me ask you something. If I give you this 50, how do I know it's going to the right place? And I was about to tell this guy that he's about to give his $50 to the biggest sap in 2 counties. But instead, I didn't. I told him this. I said, listen, all I can do is help people. I don't know what they do with my help. I don't know what happens after that. But you want to give, give. You don't want to give, I respect that too. But I am asking you out there, if you want to help people, I will guarantee you that once or twice, you will be involved with something that is not what you thought was going to happen. And if you don't land in jail, you get some really good stories out of it. But the other 99% of the time, what happens is that you get nothing in return. Nothing but silence and the gratitude of helping people. And I can tell you that my past 2 years, I have had nothing but silence. I want to thank you all who are watching out there. Thank you for hanging in there. We have one more thing to do that we have been waiting to do, and that is bow. Thank you very much. Thank you all again. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Steve. Thank